Woburn families, we are so excited to welcome our students back to their full-time school routine. This is a positive change and hopefully a time of renewed energy and spirit for all. Many students are ready for this return and have missed their school routine. And while this change is certainly exciting and long awaited, we also understand that some students may experience this as difficult or stressful. Please know that we are here to support you and your child. One thing we want to encourage is for you to first recognize your own feelings around the return to school. And keep in mind, your child will look to you to determine how they should feel. If you're having a difficult time with this upcoming change, reach out so we can help. We want all students to feel hopeful and positive, and how you model that for your child will be important. The Woburn Counseling Department has created this informational video about how to support your child as they transition back to a full-time school routine. This video is intended to help you know how to respond if your child is experiencing stress related to returning to school. We also discuss ways to help you reestablish new and healthy routines. We want you to feel informed and prepared to support your child as needed. Remember, we're in this together.
We really are excited to welcome the students all back to full-time in-person learning. And we are prepared to help students who may be struggling with change and transition. We want to talk to you about some of the worries and behaviors we can expect to see and hear from your children. Helping you to understand why this happens and what to do is one of our goals today. One of the most common behaviors is avoidance. Avoidance is our instinct when it comes to facing our worry thoughts and feelings. It's normal for kids and even adults to try to avoid. Examples of avoidance include verbally refusing to go to school, refusal to get out of bed in the morning despite frequent prompting and reminders from you, refusal to get out of the car at drop-off, refusal to actually walk into the classroom, skipping class, hiding in the bathroom at school, excessive visits to the school nurse or guidance counselor, adjustment counselor, school work refusal, and even avoiding play with peers at recess. While avoiding is what we naturally want to do, avoiding the thing that makes us anxious and uncomfortable is the opposite of what we need to do to overcome the worry, and here's why. Avoiding can sometimes immediately reduce that worry and bad feelings in our bodies, but ultimately leads to more avoidance. That's how the cycle happens. We end up having to avoid it again and again in order to feel okay, thus forming a cycle. Caregivers may be tempted to take the quickest and easiest path in the face of their child's distress and resistance, allowing them to skip, stay home, or avoid that situation they perceive is too stressful to manage. This response by caregivers can prolong the problem, and it sends a message to the child that he or she is right, and they cannot handle that thing or tolerate those worry feelings. But they can, especially when supported effectively. It is so important for caregivers to empower and remind their children that they can do it, no matter how hard it feels. This builds resilience, which is an important skill, because this skill gives the strength needed to overcome challenges and problem solve. The tricky part to this is finding that middle ground in responding to your child's avoidance response.
When we talk with our kids, it's important to not only hear and to try to understand them, but also that they feel heard and understood by us. All the more so when we're trying to help our kids work through experiences that are making them feel nervous or worried. We can do this by saying things like, "Oh, so what you're saying is," or "Hang on, let me see if I've got this right. You're saying," while we then restate what we heard. Doing this shows our kids that we are really trying to hear what they are saying, and it also gives them the chance to hear and, if needed, clarify what they actually meant. Now, as with many things, the what to do might be a clear explanation, yet the actual doing of it requires some practice and attention. When we talk with our kids about worries and nerves, our goal is to both acknowledge their feelings as being real and to remind them and help them to see that we and they can indeed do those things that feel hard or challenging. We want to walk that middle ground in our comments. We neither want to be too lenient saying something like, yeah, I thought this would be too much for you, nor do we want to be too strict, as in, don't be nervous, this shouldn't be so hard for you. If we can acknowledge their emotion as real and remind them how we believe in their strength, and also remind them of times in the past where they were successful or when you were successful together, they can feel both validated and supported in taking the next step. We can do this by saying something like, yeah, I can really see how this feels challenging, but remember, we can do things that we feel are hard or difficult when we talk to each other.
So now that you've learned a little bit about avoidance and how to find that balance between expecting too much versus too little, we will go into more detail about ways that stress and anxiety show up and affect people. We always want to try to empower kids by teaching them to notice two important things when it comes to stress and anxiety. One, how does my body feel right now? And two, what thoughts are going through my mind? When we teach kids to notice the physical sensations in their bodies and to recognize negative thoughts in their minds, we are taking the first step at helping them to take control over those uncomfortable feelings. So let's dive into those two topics more so that you're prepared to respond and coach them, starting with the physical body.
We just heard a little overview about how stress and anxiety can show up and how we think and how it makes the body feel. I am here to talk more about physical symptoms and the ways to help your child if they are experiencing uncomfortable sensations in their bodies. If you notice that every time your child is in a stressful or potentially overwhelming situation, they complain about a stomach ache, feeling dizzy, or feeling nauseous, those are just a few examples of physical symptoms of stress or anxiety. This is our body's way of telling us we need to do something to relax. There are lots of strategies kids can use to relax. I want to focus today on deep breathing, as it is the most effective way to calm our bodies and is something kids can use anywhere and everywhere when they feel worried or anxious. Breathing may sound simple, but most people don't know the correct way to breathe deeply. So I'm going to teach you. When we breathe in, we want to inhale through our nose, and when we do this, try to get the breath to travel all the way down past the lungs and into your belly, making your belly expand. Then, when you exhale, blow all that air out through your mouth, but very slowly and controlled. Be sure to let all the air out as you pull your belly back toward the spine. It looks something like this. I encourage you to give it a try. A few deep belly breaths like this can completely change how we feel. Teaching your child to notice how their body feels and what to do to relax gives them a sense of control over their emotions and their bodies.
We've learned how to make the body feel better when we are nervous, so let's now talk about changing unhelpful thoughts. It's hard to know what to say when your child has worries. It's important to teach him or her that thoughts are not facts. The goal is to challenge the thinking that leads to nervous or anxious feelings and replace those thoughts with more helpful and true thoughts. When your child is expressing a worry, practice thought stopping. He or she can stop and ask him or herself, is this true? Is this helpful? And if the answers are no, brainstorm replacement thoughts. On this slide are some examples you can use.
Now that you have learned the very basics of managing stress and anxiety, we want to provide you with some ideas and suggestions on how to help your student get back into a more normal and healthy routine. The first thing to consider is their nighttime routine, and most importantly, their sleep. good sleep habits are a critical piece in preventing anxiety and other mental health challenges. This means setting a consistent nightly routine, set a screen curfew, and shut down electronics about an hour before bed. Using electronics too close to bedtime can make it difficult to fall and stay asleep. Create an ideal sleeping environment by regulating temperature, adjusting light levels, and even adding sound machines. Help your student get into the habit of only using his or her bedroom for sleep and not for homework or screen time. We want to train the brain to relax when it's time for bed and be able to associate the bedroom with restful sleep. If your child is currently going to bed too late, take the next few days to get into a better schedule by going to bed 15 to 20 minutes earlier each night. Morning and wake-up routines are equally as important. Having consistency, predictability, and feeling prepared in the mornings helps to relieve anxiety. The night before, help your student get in the habit of preparing clothes, lunches, backpacks, and reviewing the next day's schedule to ease morning stress. Having a daily schedule or calendar for the upcoming week also lowers stress levels, so kids can see what's coming up next and feel prepared. Finally, think about making the mornings fun. Get going with some upbeat music, exchanging positive words, or thinking of small incentives or rewards that could help motivate your student to be successful in the mornings and start the day off on a positive note.
We appreciate you taking the time to view this video to help prepare for your students' transition back to school. Additional resources are added on the last slide, including some popular websites for self-calm or relaxation that anyone can use no matter what age. This is a lot of information, but our hope is that you can use it as a reference in the future as needed. Please remember that you can contact your building's school adjustment counselor, guidance counselor, program social worker, or a trusted teacher to direct you for additional support or information. Looking forward to seeing your student and celebrating back to school.